Which Diablo game is right for you, and why would you care to try any of the other games if you're one of the millions of people that are currently upset with Diablo 4 right now? Well, here's why. The Diablo franchise has been around for almost 3 decades, and over that time span, they've released a total of 5 games, and they all have very different playstyles and difficulties to them from our experiences. Or perhaps you're watching this video just because you're curious how they all stack up against one another, or you just want to hear our humble opinion on which one is the best, in which we will cover all of that in this video, and by the end we'll tell you which one is our favorite. So first, let's start with Diablo 1 and a little backstory. Diablo 1 was a dark and gothic world of sanctuary that started the new trend of ARPGs that strayed from the usual turn-based game and had random generated maps, a loot pool, items that needed to be identified, and a beautiful co-op system that apparently took so long to connect that if you ever wanted to play with a friend, you had enough time to develop Diablo 2, write a book, train a dog, go to the grocery store, expand on your invention of cryptocurrency, all while the internet connected you with your friend. Diablo opens when the ground opens up a portal to hell and all demons come out of it, and you have to traverse down 16 randomly generated map floors, fighting through each one. As you progress through the floors, the enemies get harder and you must rely heavily on magic spells and the RNG gods to feed you better gear and loot to survive the next floor. As you play through the floors, you collect, sell, trade, or wear gear and upgrade your characters with their 4 basic stats. Fun fact, originally Diablo 1 was meant to be a turn-based game, but at the last minute, the developers decided to ramp up the speed on the game and make it a real-time action ARPG, and Diablo was born. It's an isometric game with a resolution of 620 by 480 with a massive hitbox that can both benefit you and hurt you. You have about the width of a door in this game to get hit, making it hard to dodge, but enemies have the same hitbox themselves, making it easy to attack. There was very little interaction with NPCs in the game, and the majority of them that you could interact with would just give you lore of the game and then a few vendors where you could actually buy and sell items and identify them. This is also where we first meet the infamous beloved Deckard Cain, who for 27 years has found nothing but deaf ears to fall on.
Stay a while and listen. Stay a while and listen.
Pros and cons of Diablo 1. The game had a great atmosphere and great music. The replayability was very high due to the random map generation, and it was diverse with the multiple builds that you could come up with the 3 classes. Cons, it was difficult to play with friends due to the poor internet connection, the game lacked enemy variation, and there was a difficult spike at the end of the game which was hard to handle, unless the RNG gods blessed you. Diablo 2 was then released in the year 2000, just 4 years after Diablo 1, and this game truly blew up the action RPG genre. Diablo 2 had an unprecedented scale and depth to it that expanded off the Diablo 1 series, being much larger in scale in all aspects, from its characters, maps, enemies, builds, UI, and storyline. Now this is technically when I jumped into the Diablo scene just after its release and just before the LOD expansion came out, and I had to go back to play Diablo 1 to get the full story and experience, and man was there a difference in the upgrades to Diablo 2. Diablo 2's diverse character class system was a lot to take in. You could select from a total of 7 characters, each with their own unique skill tree and build-outs. They all shared the same stats, but with each character, it was affected differently between them. Diablo 2 was built as a game that was easy to learn but hard to master, which gave every player from all experiences a great time to learn and play the game as it evolved. Diablo 2 had redefined the random looting system and itemization. In this game, they introduced the different item types like magic, rare, unique, and set items, which a lot of the other games then followed this setup after this. This is what also introduced mid-maxing into video games and having players farm endless hours to find that perfect unique gear with the perfect stats on it. This drastically increased the replayability of the game, making it feel fresh whenever you went back to play it, even after years of rest, as there was always something new that every gamer, new or old, was looking for. Especially after they introduced the rune word system, it really changed the game and revolutionized the way that the game was played. Rune words was essentially a way of taking a difficult to find item so you could turn normal items into legendaries as a reward for playtime and being blessed by the RNG gods. In Diablo 2, they also released modding tools to the community to take the game to the next level on single player mode. Not that it was a super important feature of the game, but personally, I spent hours modding Diablo 2, making using ruins that were as godly as a grandfather's sword, and a quick rushing system for characters to get them up to level 60 to be able to skip to hell difficulty right away. The modding helped expand the single-player experience with this game and allowed players to use their creativity and be able to enjoy either the grindiness of Diablo II Online or an exhausted Friday afternoon to sit down, build the most badass character ever made in Diablo history in the matter of 5 minutes, and delete everything on screen. Lastly, the Diablo II Online system is what was really amazing about the game. They had figured out a nearly flawless, for the year 2000s, online system where it was easy to play with friends or random people, make new friends or enemies in PvP, and created an ever-expanding community that to this day still enjoys. Between the character design and the online system, a game with a variety of characters was really important, in that a game full of sorcerers with one of them being swapped out for a barb was a game-changing experience due to the perks that came with the barbarian. Some of the most memorable gaming experience as a kid in middle school was playing the cow level online with my friends all summer long as a Boazon or Javazon, ripping through herds of cows as they played their terrible moo sounds that were created from the developers of Diablo II as a joke. Fun fact, there were so many rumors online in Diablo 1 that if you performed a variety of instructions, it would open up a secret cow level, which wasn't true, but Blizzard decided to run with it and put a secret cheat code into StarCraft called "There is no cow level" that you would then automatically win the game. Because of both of these series of events in history, this is ultimately how the cow level came to be in Diablo 2 and easily became one of the most used and iconic levels in the game. Pros and cons of Diablo 2. Pros, it had one of the largest collections of character builds in the Diablo franchise that was actually well balanced, had some of the best maps and level designs, and the Ruin Words system was one of the best in-game designs we have seen in a long time. Cons, it's the hardest Diablo game to get good at, especially without friends. The game is incredibly grindy compared to anything else, and no unique leveling experience except to repeat boss fights. Diablo 3. Now, if you were around for the release of Diablo 3, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. If you think the release for Diablo 4 is bad, with 15 patches in a 2-month span, Diablo 3 was a different level of frustration. Overall, the game was good and had a new fast-paced take to it, amazing characters, level design, and a fresh take on character building and stat allocation. Now, in this video, I don't intend on bringing up the failures of the beginning of Diablo 3 like the auction house, as it's irrelevant for how the game is today, in that Diablo 3 took a few years to become what it is and eventually became one of the largest selling games of all time. They had removed some technical aspects from Diablo 2 in character development, where you didn't have to figure out stat allocation and character building, adding stats on your own as much with weighing out block, no block, FCR, IAS, FHR, FBR, all that kind of good stuff. It actually took some planning and analysis before gearing a character. Not only this, but you couldn't freely respec characters in Diablo 2, so they had to be planned out from level 1 for the standard gamer. Diablo 3 eliminated all of this. This is where Diablo 3 excelled to a degree and made the game for the masses, where the system would figure this all out for you and boil it all down to a simple DPS system. The bigger the stick, the harder it hits. Main goal is to delete everything on screen as fast as you can. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, and making sure that you have the right stats on each piece of gear to mid-max, but you get the gist of it. Diablo 3 is a fast-paced game of leveling, building, redesigning, mid-maxing, and can all be done in a quick time frame, which met the demand of the current generation that's also playing games like Battle Royale and FPS games. On top of this, one character can have multiple builds, as they had an armor chest with loadouts that would save all of your selected skills, ruins, armors, gems, and etc. So you didn't have to build 5 different demon hunters to play all the builds in one season, which was an amazing feature that they built into it. They also redesigned the leveling experience in Diablo 3 so it was less repetitive but still grindy to a degree. You would still span rifts and greater rifts to push your character to the limits and level gems for small incremental damage increases that would push your character from deleting everything on screen in 2 seconds to 1 second, and honestly in most cases it felt great to the general public. Added to this, the online system was easy, simple, and pleasing. You could easily create a private game to go solo or play with friends, or do a quick join game to play with random people for the additional experience and fun. On top of this, the Battle.net system worked really well and everything connected quickly. They had also improved on the follower and pet system in Diablo III, where the follower, they added more gear slots for your follower to use and gave them the ability to use also legendary aspects that could transfer over to your character. In doing so, it made it where you had to put in that much more thought and effort for your build, and if you were going to focus on single player or group player mode, if you would have that follower with you or not. They also had the pet system that helped drastically improve the quality of life in the game, where your pet would help pick up gold, crafting items, and much more. Pros and cons of Diablo III: it was a fast and fun-paced game. The season system was a refreshing take where the game always felt new, and the character building and loadout system was expansive and easy to learn. Cons: the end game lacked variety, still like Diablo II, and you could only grind out rifts and greater rifts. Development got out of hand with the game, and everything was a constant buff on every patch, to the point where characters were doing trillions of damage. Lastly, the internet connection and live servers was an absolute requirement in order to play. Luckily, they were good systems. Diablo Immortal. Out of all the games, this is the one game that we have the least experience with, but did play it for a little, so we'll do our best to give it justice. Please feel free to drop in the comments below anything that I miss, get wrong, or right for that matter. Diablo Immortal was the first game to come out as a handheld and was incredibly successful. It brought the love of this action RPG to the palm of your hand, so you could start ignoring your job and getting more Diablo time in. It takes place after the second and third games as the first massive online ARPG. In Diablo Immortal, each player is given 5 character slots. This means you can have up to 5 distinct characters active at one time. Players can create one or more characters to use within the game and select one of the game's 6 character classes: Barbarian, Wizard, Monk, Necromancer, Demon Hunter, and Crusader. Each class has 12 unlockable skills from which the player chooses 5 to use concurrently. On top of this, they also added Elder Crests, which will help modify the Rift and give a different gameplay style to the Rift in changing the attributes, and then also give a different outcome to the items dropped, depending on the difficulty of the Elder Crest. Then they also had gems, ruins, and charms that could be socketed into pieces of gear to increase the base stats of your character. Each of these have their own tier levels, with legendaries being the best. For the end game, you must upgrade these legendary gems with your ruins to gain additional power. As for the game itself, we simply struggled to grasp the game and enjoy it, as we're simply not big into cell phone games. It's no harm or foul to the game or the developers, so we'd love to hear your feedback down in the comments below if you've played the game yourself and what your thoughts are on it compared to the other Diablo games. Lastly, Diablo IV. Assuming Diablo IV might be the reason you're here and watching this video, you probably already know what the game is like. The game is very similar to its predecessors, in which you must level up your character as you progress through the campaign in their newly designed massive open online world. While playing through the campaign, you can opt in to do side quests, dungeons, which will reward you with gold, loot, gear, crafting material, and new features called aspects. Aspects are legendary powers that you can choose to slot into rare gear that you found in the open world to better suit your playstyle and upgrade your character in a defined way that you like. At the same time, if you find a legendary with a good aspect, but you don't like it on that specific piece of gear, like a helmet, you can extract it and put it on a chest piece. They've also now introduced the renown system that helps better advance your character. You collect renown for simply playing the game, finding statues of Lilith, finding new waypoints, completing the strongholds, and doing side quests. As you collect renown, you'll unlock the new skill points and other useful features that are account bound for all characters to enjoy. Essentially, it's an appreciation from the developers to you for playing the game and going above and beyond the average gamer. As for the online gameplay, it is way different than the other games. There's no quick partying system with random players like they've had in the past, so you must be good at making friends or finding the right communities to join. But as you traverse the world, you will constantly run into other players of different levels, and whether you are in a party with them or not, you can play side by side with them and gain extra experience for doing so. The end game experience consists of a rotation of doing Hell Tides, Legion events, world bosses, and Nightmare dungeons, which is far more content than we've had in the previous games, which I can personally appreciate. On top of this, you can farm dungeon aspects and finish collecting renown for the remainder of your Diablo 4 career for forever to enjoy. Unless you play seasonal, then you start halfway over every time for whatever reason. The general playstyle isn't as slow as Diablo 2 or as fast as Diablo 3, and they've really hit kind of a middle ground on it. Diablo 3 was a fast-paced moving game with a screen full of mobs that you tried to delete as fast as possible, and Diablo 2 was a lot more movement and exploring with less screen density. Pros and cons of Diablo 4. There's more to do in the end game, it's easier to build power and save it across your account, and the new online system feels refreshing and unique in a way. Cons, it's a double-edged sword. You also need friends in order to play with anyone in this game. The game does require an online connection at all times with no single-player mode, and currently has a lot of patching, so the game is a new game every other day, which can be frustrating. Overall, every Diablo game is really different in its own way and offers a different experience to players. If you're looking for the hardest game of them all, then go with Diablo II Resurrected, as we personally feel it's the hardest to learn, hardest to build a character, and hardest to get good at. If you're looking for the fastest paced game out there, where in a week you could be on the leaderboard, then go with Diablo 3. It's the fastest paced game they have, where dying doesn't matter, and the online system is easy to invite other people, and you can get really good really quickly. It also has the most content on YouTube to find builds. Just go find Riker, he'll help you out. If you want a sweet in between of these games, then Diablo 4 is your game. It will take some time to build a good account, and character development can be slow at times, but if you're an RPG enthusiast and you have a little more time on your hands, then you will thoroughly enjoy it. Just stay off Reddit and everything will be fine. Lastly, in our humble opinion, we personally prefer Diablo 2 as the best game of them all, as we personally have the most memories for us and has nothing related to do which game we truly think is the best. I've played the game enough and learned it inside and out to be good at it and jump right into it, and it's like riding a bike, enjoying the hell out of it. But again, we also think that Diablo 3 and Diablo 4 are amazing games. They are just very different in their play styles, their movability, their fastness, their character development, level layouts, and everything that comes with it. Just like Diablo 3, there's currently a lot of backlash on Diablo 4 because it's a brand new game, which is fine, and we personally choose to ignore it all, as we still think it's a great game that could just use a little tweaking, and we will have fun with it no matter what. This has been another TBG video. Thanks for watching.